Good morning, afternoon, evening, and welcome back to the podcast. Today we're going to start a new series called I Have the Same Patient Every Time I Come to Work, and he died 2 years ago. Now, as always, there will be new parts to everything published Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays, and Sundays, so be sure to tune in for those, all right? Let's go ahead and dive right in. Well, let's just start off with the obvious. I'm not crazy. At least, that's what I like to tell myself. A little background about me. I'm a nurse at a relatively well-known hospital in the beautiful city of Seattle. Initially, I was born and raised in Nevada, but grew tired of being in a desert, so I moved after I graduated. I work the typical shifts for my profession, which is 3 nights on, 4 nights off. The 12-hour shifts can be draining and really demoralizing at times, but I do find a way to get through. I typically wake up around 5:50 p.m. after smashing my snooze button as much as possible, and quickly get dressed and head into work, still wiping the crust from my eyes as I pull into the parking lot. I always look up towards the 4th floor tower before shutting off my car. It's become my work ritual. 4 rooms from the left, and there it is. A brightly lit room that stands out in the darkness of the rest of the floor. He's here. The nerves that used to leave me frozen have now dulled. It has been going on for so long at this point, it would really take something extraordinary to scare me. The walk from my car to the elevator inside is about 5 or so minutes. It's usually during this walk I like to try and plan out how my day is going to be. I like to think about which potential patients I'll be getting today and how I'm going to keep them stable throughout the day. Except for one. Room 407. I never needed to plan ahead for him, simply because I already knew everything that needed to be done. I walk inside and reach the doors of the elevator. These particular doors always took forever to close, even after pressing a specific button to make them go faster. I always try to hop on and close the doors before anyone else can. Look, I'm not much of a people person to begin with, and I know, a person who hates people, yet is a nurse. I get to my floor with very little time to spare almost every day. The less I have to be there, the better for my overall mental health at this point. I find the patient list for the night near my charge nurse's office. No surprise, I have rooms scattered throughout the floor per usual, and at the bottom in bright red numbers, 407. Shit. Is my typical thought every time I read it. It's not that I have a problem with it or anything. It actually makes my day slightly easier. However, there is still a bit of hope when I read the list that I won't have him. You see, I've had this patient for the last 2 years of my career, starting February 26th, 2016. And he died from a massive brain hemorrhage on February 28th, 2016. I get a report from the day shift about my other patients. As much as I try not to, my brain stays focused on room 407 every time we pass it. When it first started happening, I would break out into cold sweats and refuse to approach any room nearby. But I'm over that now, even if I'm a little hesitant. I've gotten pretty efficient with my daily routine to the point of my day mostly being done around 11 p.m. The rest of the night consists of me trying to figure out what to do. Sometimes I help others with their patients. Sometimes I stock the shelves of our storage unit. Anything to keep my mind off the fact that it's nearly almost time. I hear a call light go off in the distance, glancing at my watch and hoping it's any time but the time I already know it is. It's 4:07 a.m. My mind typically tries to convince myself that maybe this time will be different, but I know it won't be. I slowly start walking to the room to answer the call light. As much as I don't want to, it is still my duty and job, regardless of who the patient is. I knock on the door lightly, again still holding the hope that this time will be different. It's not. The door handle creaks and turns by itself, with the door slowly opening inwards into the darkness. I take a deep breath and calmly walk into the room, fully knowing that the door will soon close behind me as soon as I am fully in. Your call light is on. Can I help you? I ask, not to anyone in particular, almost as if to the room itself. I am met with the same response that I always am, a deafening silence that makes me question whether I am still awake or dreaming, having passed out on the ground in fear. As my eyes adjust to the darkness, that same IV pole starts to beep and flash. It's not too loud, and it's not overly bright when it does go off, but it shines just enough light on the bed to confirm what I already know. He's here. I slowly move towards the button to turn off the light, which is sadly placed right above the bed itself. At least I don't have to see his face. It's covered with a thin veil of a white sheet, commonly done to patients post-mortem out of respect. I hold my breath as I move toward him, pretending to walk on eggshells that, if cracked too loudly, would spell my imminent doom. I reach the call light and shut it off. Okay, you should be good, I think to myself as I slowly start backing out, but this time is different. This time, my foot connects with something on the floor, something metallic at one end and plastic at the other. It's enough to let out the pent-up oxygen inside me, forcing me to gasp for the air around me. It reeks of death and suffering and all that lays in between. Oh, dear God, I mouth with no words actually coming out. I come close to slipping, but never have I been this loud before. I pause in my tracks and stare at the shape laying in front of me. After what feels like an eternity of watching for any movement, I manage to slowly start backing towards the door. And here's where I made my biggest mistake yet. I turn to face the door to find the handle, only for a second. As I reached the cool metal of the handle to exit, I looked back to double check one more time. For the first time in 2 years, something different finally happened. He was no longer in his bed. Shit. And that is the end of the podcast for tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, thank you for tuning in. And as always, there will be updates every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday. Thank you all for dropping by. And as always, sweet dreams.